This is This is the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom show, the Wake Up Call on WCOM LP, Chapel Hill and Carver, 103.5 on your FM dial, or live streaming at WCOMFM.org. You can also watch the show on the People's Channel after a week's delay on Thursday night at 10 p.m., Friday morning at 6 a.m., or Tuesday at noon. The show will also be available on our YouTube channel, Wilf Wake Up Call. I'm Iris Schwinzer here with our host, Lori Hoyt, and Emily Keel on the camera. Today our special guest is Rene Price and perhaps Matt Hughes.
Thank you, Iris. So, we're very glad to have Rene here. She's an Orange County Commissioners, and we're waiting for Matt Hughes, who's on the Hillsborough Town Board.
Yes.
And what we're here today is to talk about the census. What I understand is that everybody on the Chapel Hill Town Council, the Carrboro Council, and the Commissioners are all concerned that people get the correct information about the census, which is coming up. And since sometime in the past there was some misinformation, they really want to let people know how important this is and what it means for our community. And that's what we're going to find out today. And we're going to start off with Rene Price and find out more about the census, when it's going to start, and all these other questions that educated people want to know more about.
Well, the census takes place every 10 years. This has been going on for a couple of centuries. It's a way of counting the population, and as time has gone on, the United States Census Bureau has gathered more information, more than just who's living where and how many people in the home. So they now gather some socioeconomic information, and every 10 years the count is taken, and from that we get federal dollars as well as state dollars, depending on the information that is collected.
How many people?
Yes, the number of people and the socioeconomic data that goes along with, our population.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, because, in fiscal year 2016, North Carolina, based on the number of people that have been counted, we received over $23.7 billion in federal and state funding.
Wow.
For various programs, including things like child nutrition programs. So it's really, really important. And when you think about Orange County itself, where we've got several Title I schools and we need to feed those children, we need to know exactly, or as close to exactly, how many children we have and what their family lives are like.
So this is really important that everybody signs, I guess. How does it work? Will they send it in the mail? I understand they may not be coming door to door anymore, but tell us what's happening.
Well, this is the first year that it's going to be digital. Yeah. So, yes, in the past it's you would get a form in the mail and you fill it out, and if you didn't fill it out, a census worker would come by and encourage you to fill out your form and put it back in the mail. This year what they're going to do is somewhere between March 12th and the 20th, I think, there will be letters will be coming out to everyone, to every residence, with a code on there, and you use that code. Or I understand now you may also be able just to use your address, but then you'll use that and you can go online and you can fill out the 9 questions. There are 9 questions if you're just one person. If there's more people in the house, then you have to fill out a form for each one of them as well, including children. That's one of the members of our population that in the past people have not completed the form for them. So we have to know our children. But you'll get a letter in the mail, as I said, with this code, and you go online, and you can go online as soon as you get it, as soon as you get that letter. Another letter will come out a few days later to remind you, because a lot of people will not be expecting this letter from the from the government, and, you know, some people have a tendency of just piling their mail someplace, or
We
they
know
see
people like
something,
that.
yeah, or just like tossing it in, you know, in the recycling bin. And then a postcard will be sent, but as soon as you get that, you can fill it out. April 1st, April Fool's Day,
Go ahead.
is Census Day, but you don't have to wait until that day to do it. That's just
April Fool's Day.
April Fool's Day is Census Day. It's no joke. That's when you there'll be a big push, a big promotion for people to really just sit down for a minute. It should only take about 10 minutes to fill out the form, and either send it back by email, you know, just push the enter button, submit, or if, as I said, you know, because it's digital, and a lot of people, even in Orange County, do not have access to the internet, they don't have broadband, or some people just have a fear of the internet or the computer. So some people also will be getting the paper version, or you can request a paper version. You can also do it by telephone.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because not everybody is comfortable getting online to do that. So when you get it, is it already where you could put it in the mail, or do you have to request a special version for that? Or does it come in an envelope so that you said you can do it either digitally or just fill it out and send it?
You will get that letter, and to be honest with you, I'm unsure exactly what it will say. Some people will automatically get the paper version, but you can request it. And actually, if you don't fill out the form, you know, immediately or soon, someone will come by, and you can, you know, knocking on your door, and you can tell them that you'd prefer to have the paper version. But you can always request that.
Yeah, because I think they should make it as easy as possible, since you're right, people are busy. And I hope it comes in an envelope that gets your attention, because there's so much junk mail. I hope it's some big red envelope or big orange envelope, you know, or something that.
Yeah, we were hoping that would happen, but you know, as time went on, we get little bits of information that would change, you know, coming from the Census Bureau. So we weren't sure, but we thought, yeah, it really needed to be like bright and bold, so people don't just toss it.
Yeah. So one of the reasons then that you are here representing a lot of our local politicians or people who are trying to keep the community going is because this is so important in terms of how much federal dollars we get for children's nutrition and I guess other things.
Oh, a lot of other things.
Like?
A lot of the housing and community development monies are dependent upon census tract information. I'm not sure if I said this yet, but our legislative districts.
No, we didn't talk about that.
We talked about that before. That's why. It's
Yeah. We were talking before the show. So let's talk about how important that is.
Yes. So census numbers are also used to determine electoral districts, including congressional. And North Carolina is poised to get another congressional district based on the count. So that's another reason why it's very important. And even locally, once we get the numbers and know where people are, we can redistrict some of our own local election lines. We may not do it in Orange County, but other places would be dependent on that, especially when you've got growth in some of our municipal areas, or even in suburban areas as well.
So that some of the areas that there's been high growth, I guess, has been more the urban areas, from what I understand, like Raleigh, and I don't know about with Orange County, if we had a lot of growth or not.
Oh yes, Chapel Hill has been growing. Carrboro is growing. I mean, even where we're sitting right now, you can see, you know, a hotel that's been built since in the last 10 years. So I mean, there's a lot of development. Even Hillsborough is growing, and they have plans for, you know, another 1,000 units. So yes, we are growing.
So that I knew we were growing, but I didn't know how much I had to grow to get like another district. But so overall in the state, there's been different areas that have been growing much more than other areas. Does that go then with getting the extra congressional district? Does it happen more in the area where there is the growth, I guess, then?
Yes, the congressional districts will be based on the growth, or even
Yeah.
the shifts in population.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yes. And because North Carolina has grown, especially when you look at kind of that crescent going from Charlotte to Greensboro, Durham,
Yeah.
and over to Wake County, Raleigh,
Yeah,
there's been a lot of growth there.
yeah,
And so, yes, we can expect another congressional district. And then, that also has an impact on the counties where there are some counties that will be losing population. And when you lose population, you lose development, and that's going to affect a lot of their the demographics in those counties as well, the job opportunities, the housing, and just the land values, all of that.
So that it'll affect us with local representation at our legislature, but also could affect our representation in Washington with federal representatives.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
members of
both-
the House of Representatives, yes.
Yeah, the House of Representatives. So that has a huge impact in what will happen in North Carolina. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
And then some of the other things that the money is used for is transportation, even though we don't do, counties don't do roads here, but cities can do roads, and then the state. But those federal dollars are, come to us, and funding for roads and other transportation, mass transit, and other social services that are much needed. So there's a lot that's dependent upon that accurate count. And we've calculated that for each person in North Carolina, that's counted an average of $1,600 in federal funding we would get.
for each person?
Plus another $200 in state funding. So you're talking about, each person may be worth $1,800.
And will be brought into the county. Yeah, I don't think people will realize that, so it's so important. So what has been the experience of these? Has there always been an issue that to get people to do it? Is this difficult to get?
Yes, it is difficult. It's particularly communities of color over the years, and lower income areas, and also people just unsure of who's to be counted. As I said, one of the biggest populations that was undercounted in the past were children, because people just didn't realize that they were supposed to count their children, and we need to know about our children. But when you think about some of the federal programs that are dependent on information, a lot of people just have been hesitant to give the government any information. There's, I guess, maybe always there's been a distrust of the government in various populations. So, and then even this year, because early on, the Trump administration wanted to put a question on there about citizenship, that scared people, and so now we have to explain to people that the question is not going to be on the census form. No one will be, and plus the information that is gathered on the form is confidential. It is to remain confidential for 72 years. To release it is a crime, with a penalty. But whenever people start giving out information, personal information, or are asked to do that, a lot of people get nervous, trying to find out who's living with you or how much you make or something like that.
Yeah, so this has been an issue in other years, but this year it's a much scarier issue in terms of that will people do it, because of initially that it was very controversial, the Trump administration wanting to put that question about citizenship on, and I think it took some struggle and fights to get that off of the census. And the fear, I guess, is people hear about the controversy, but we don't know if they have heard about the resolution.
Right.
You know, so you're trying to get word out that that is not gonna be on and that it is kept confidential, but trying to get people to understand that it will be safe, because I guess that's a big issue for,
Oh, rightfully so. And
Yeah.
when you consider, particularly in our area here in the Triangle, where we've had raids by ICE, people are fearful. I mean, people are fearful to send their children to school at times. And so, you know, when you present them with a form that's going back to the U.S. government, it's going to be hard to convince some people to do that.
yeah.
And that's one reason why the Census Bureau and at various levels, there are people working at the regional level out of Atlanta and then the state and local. But we've been trying to educate people that we call trusted messengers, people from these communities, whether you're African American, Native American, Asian, Latinx communities, wherever. To go into to go there and try to recruit people to work for the Census Bureau. We have temporary jobs, well, not the county, but the U.S. Census Bureau has temporary jobs for folks. And if we can get people from the communities to become educated about the census and then go back into the communities and then promote the census and the importance of filling it out and the fact that it is confidential, it's anonymous.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because that's what I was gonna say. Wouldn't it make sense to get people from the community to go and be the ones that talk in the community
Right.
about it and how and why it is safe for them? And I'm glad to hear that's being done. I didn't know for sure. I'm glad to hear that, because I think that's your best bet. You know, I was thinking of just the different groups that are supporting the Latinx community and the Black community, you know, that to have people from there be willing to volunteer and get the training and be willing then to get people out in the community that are trusted. That seems to me, with the level of distrust with the government right now, I'm talking about the federal government, the Trump administration, that would be essential. So,
Yes.
so you're saying that is happening.
Yes, and I understand that that the Census Bureau is still looking for more people, at least in this area. I'm not sure. Then again, I have a friend that she did apply and she hadn't heard back, so it may just be that they're slow in making those confirmations on appointment.
Mm-hmm. Let's hope, yeah. So this is something that you're trying to get the word out in our station here, that I imagine are there gonna be like radio or TV spots? I was just thinking how important it's gonna take repetition.
Yeah, the best teacher.
Yes, they say the first time you hear something, it goes on, that you need like to hear it about 5 times for it to sink in, or something like that. So I'm just hoping that the Census Bureau, as it gets closer, maybe will be putting out a lot of, but I think more than that is, these would be reminders, but in terms of the trust issue, I think what you're saying is happening would be essential, people that they know,
Right, well,
and
and
people know.
yes, now around the country there are complete count committees, just similar to ours. Now our committee is made up of maybe 50 people from various avenues, walks of life, from government to nonprofit organizations to education. Unfortunately, North Carolina, even though it was requested by certain members of the General Assembly, and even the governor requested money for the census, but the vote was no. Well, we don't even have a budget, so.
So who voted no, the legislature?
Well, they didn't vote on the budget that was proposed by the governor, who wanted to put money in. If you go to places like Illinois or California, they put millions of dollars into a complete count.
Oh, no.
And they started early. You can go online and see they had beautiful posters or having events. And in fact, we're planning a couple of events here. I know Chapel Hill is doing I believe it's March 16th. They're doing a census kickoff, starting at the library. And then on March 29th, we're having the Get Out the Count Sunday. And that will be actually the same day as the Crop Hunger Walk. So I'm doing promotion for the Hunger Walk now.
We're having somebody on, I think, next week about that.
Yeah, and so we will have a table there. But earlier in the day, Anna Richards, who's chairing that subcommittee with some of our nonprofit organizations, we've written a letter that will go to the various faith assemblies and asking them to please announce the census, on Sunday morning or Saturday or Friday, depending on when they meet, and to encourage people, from the pulpit, encourage people to please fill out the census form, and if they have a computer that's up and running, to allow people to get online, maybe after church, so that they can, so we be sure that there's a count.
So somebody's getting the word out to the churches about that?
Yeah, we're sending a letter. It may be out already, but
To all the churches?
we got a list of all the, actually from the Department on Aging. They have a list because of all the work that they do
Yeah,
in
yeah.
various groups. So they're putting the word out. We're putting the word out that way.
That's a
If
great
they,
idea.
And if they, if they need any materials, we'll send those on as well. And so that would be, during the, I guess, morning service. And then in the afternoon, crop walk starts at the sign in is at 1:00, and then 2:30 the walk begins. But we've got that chunk of time between 1 and 2:30 where we can talk about the census. We'll have a table there if anyone wants to know. And
what date is the crop walk?
Sunday, March 29th.
March 29th, okay.
Yeah. The last Sunday in March, and it's just a few days before April 1st, which is Census Day. And so
Perfect.
Yeah, and we're going to have a logo, or at least a line on the T-shirts that people wear for the crop walk. This is, I guess it says U.S. Census. I haven't seen it, but we sent in our logo. How they put it on there, I'm not sure. But anyway, we're going to advertise during that. And as I said, we'll have a table there. And we've been on WCHL. We're going to be on WHUP. And online, you can go online. Now, the Orange County Health Department, they've done a fantastic job. They've made videos. Well, actually, let me back up a minute. Even the Census Bureau has provided PSAs and videos that you can watch or use. Anyone can use them. And they've translated these videos into several languages, including Spanish, Karen, Burmese. And so, they might be working on one for Swahili. But yeah, then you can go online to our Orange County Health Department, and they got them right there, or just Orange County and look for census, and that information will be right there.
Well, that's really encouraging, because you're saying that there's hardly any budget, but different organizations are picking up that slack.
We are. The county's picking up that slack. We put some money in Hillsborough, Carrboro, Chapel Hill. They've all either from their budgets or just staff time.
Yeah.
Now, another exciting piece is that, there's a film class at Cedar Ridge High School, and the teacher is Andrea DeGette, and they're working on a video. And these young people are excellent. They are excellent. And so they have produced a video. I haven't seen it yet. I saw their script, and it's like they really had quite a bit of documentation that they were looking at. But again, as I said, so much depends on it, in particularly with schools, and school nutrition and all, and so that's going to be exciting.
So the young people are making this video about the census, and that's going to be shown in different schools, or?
Well, I hope it'll be shown in the schools, and then we'll try to put it online. Of course, I still have a ways to go with technology, But YouTube, you can put things on
Yeah, I'm
YouTube, I
terrible with
understand. And, and anybody can see it, and so, and they will know, these young people will know exactly
They
how to
will
market
know.
it.
They will know.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're gonna do it so it'll pop up on your iPhone, or your your mobile phone, whatever,
Yeah.
Android as well.
So even on a slimmer budget than one would have hoped compared to some of these other states, there is some creative efforts going out to make sure people hear about it. Because you're right, you have to get at it from so many different angles, and the churches is certainly a great angle because that is a trusted place for a lot of people.
Right, and even on our Complete Count committee, we have representatives from the Latinx community, Asian, the NAACP, so I mean, in some of the community centers. So we tried our best to get someone from everywhere. Now, of course, Orange County is different than some of these other urban areas like Chicago, where you really have, there are a lot of people to count there. So yes, so Illinois and Chicago, they came forth with a budget, a big budget a long time ago, because they knew that it was going to be difficult. And when you consider, the amount of money per person, it's really, it pays for itself. If you get a complete count or close to it, it pays for whatever budget outlays, it's been paid for once you count everyone. And but here in Orange County, my understanding is that in 2010 we did over 80%. We had a good count, but we wanted.
Is that considered good then if you get over 80%? I mean, I don't know how.
To me, I think over
Yeah,
90 is
yeah.
good. When you consider.
I mean,
what's
I'm
at
thinking
stake.
like of other years, of other 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when there wasn't quite the fear of the government as there is with Trump for certain communities.
Right. Well, we've had more immigration, and then the
Yeah.
Trump administration. Yet in the past, now I come from upstate New York, in a big city there, and we always heard about people hiding from the census or hiding from social workers, hiding from anybody from the government.
Yeah.
So I really don't know
If it's that different.
how I really would
Yeah.
be making a mistake to try to say the extent of the undercount,
Yeah.
whether it's gotten worse or better.
Yeah.
But I would say this, that the scare with putting a citizenship question on there did, it is going to affect, it already has had an influence on how people will respond.
Yeah. Well, look, I think it's time for our station break, so we'll
Good,
catch our
okay.
breath. This is terrific information you've given us, Renee.
Huh?
Okay. Oh, that's right, you need them.
This is Wolf's Wake Up Call on WCOMLP, Chapel Hill and Carrboro, 103.5 FM. You can stream us live at
Wolf is Water Day, will be coming up, and we'll talk more about it next week. I think, Emily, I'll ask you that there's a movie that we do have, or we're hoping to get, Dark Waters, and that's by Mark Ruffalo, and we're gonna be
Was
hoping
that the
to.
one that was in
Mhm,
West
yes.
Virginia?
Well,
to
in
place?
Yeah,
Wilmington, I think some.
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
More,
and we're hoping to be showing that, time and place to be firmed up, and we're hoping about March 21st.
I think so.
And then we're also, maybe on the 23rd, these, again, we'll be confirming these dates. We're hoping to have, Wilf will be sponsoring a video about the Poor People's Campaign. Many of us, or many of our members have been involved with Reverend Barbara's campaign for the Poor People's Campaign around the nation. And there's a video, so stay tuned. In the next week or two, we'll have much more definite information about both of those. So, and World Water Day, it's so critical. I was just thinking of that, waking up and thinking, because I just had eye surgery, and they said, don't swim in any rivers or streams, or have you, because there's such a fear of contamination if you've had surgery. And I thought about, there are rivers and streams at one time were much more pristine, and now there's so many chemicals. We've recently had that scare with the Cape Fear River Basin with the Chemex chemicals. And I won't go into all of that. I just want to alert us to protect our water is precious. My understanding is that the planet has a limited supply of fresh water, and when we use it up, we'll be having to recycle bad water to try to make it good, which at least there may be some technology with that, but it's not like having pristine, good, clean water that we've been so fortunate. There's been a lot of aquifers where we've been able to draw on this wonderful water, and we need to protect every bit of it now, and I'm just gonna put that in preparation for World Water Day. Keep that in mind. Our guest tonight, or this afternoon, is Rene Price, one of our county commissioners, and she is on a committee of several people from our Chapel Hill Council, our Carborough Council, our commissioners, our Hillsborough councils and boards, all concerned about the upcoming census and wanting to get the word out in as many ways as they can creatively come up with to let people know how important it is and to overcome any fears that the Trump administration may have engendered or may not have, but to let them know that it'll be safe, that their information will be protected, and that it's extremely important, not only for federal dollars coming into our state and into our community, but also our representation, so that we have a voice both at our legislature and at our House of Representatives in Washington. Unfortunately, we can't get any more senators. Every state just has the 2 senators, and hopefully we're gonna have some new ones coming up. But anyhow, Rene Price, thank you so much for coming, and we're going to go back to talking about the census.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Well, one thing that people should also know is that if they want to fill out the census online but don't have a computer, or just it's really slow at home, we've got 13 at least what we're calling Be Counted sites, and those are places like Hargrave Center, the libraries, places where you've got, and community centers, Rene, Cedar Grove Community Center, places where there's county or municipally owned computers or rooms where people can go in and fill out the census. Now the thing is that people will be there. Of course, there'll be staff. Like if you go into the library, there's staff, but they cannot, again, because of this confidentiality, they are not to be filling it out for you or going online and typing in your answers. You have to do it yourself, but they can guide you to the computer, make sure you know how to turn it on, or access the website itself. But we really don't, we really discourage even asking too much there. I believe that we've been talking about having, a sheet, explanation to tell people just how to go online to find it, so that you don't have to bother
Would that
staff.
be-
So Emily?
Yeah.
Oh, I think that somebody's here. Is that Matt Hughes?
No, it's Barbara. Barbara
It's Barbara
Foushee.
Foushee. Okay, the instigator of this. So she'll be coming in. So we're talking about access to the computer, and that they can't give you too much help because of confidentiality, but there'll be staff there to help you get to the site and how to turn it on and how to get to the correct site to put your answers in.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also, hey Barbara, welcome. Got held up at work, but I'm glad you could come.
Hey, I'm here. Hello.
We've been talking about, guess what, the census.
Yeah.
Yeah, and And Matt hasn't shown up, but we're sure glad to see you.
I'm glad to be here. Sorry to
I'm
be
glad you're
late.
here.
And when I looked in here, I was like, oh, she's by herself. I
Yeah.
said, I'm glad that I did, make it here for
So
the
Barbara
last half an
Foushee
hour.
from the Carborough Council is here, and we've been talking to Rene Price from the Orange County Commissioners. So, okay, we've just been talking about that those who don't have computers can go to, there'll be 13 sites around the county. Our libraries is places where they have computers that you can get access, that they won't give you too much help because of confidentiality, but they'll show you how to turn it on and how to get to the correct site for the census. So that's where we're at right now, and I wanted to get back to, for the people like me who would wanna fill it out with pen or pencil and mail it in.
I wouldn't mind doing that either. I'm old school. How about you,
You can
Commissioner
do
Price?
that. You can do that.
I trust that a lot more.
I do too, for some reason. I was thinking about that on the way over here. And I know, it's technology driven, the decision.
I know.
A lot of people online, a lot, right? But that can also be a deterrent for some people, I believe,
I agree.
especially people who are not comfortable with computers or just don't trust something about it, the whole process. And even though, we have these sites available where they can go and use the computers like at the libraries and different places, it's just a matter of if they trust it or not, as to it. So I don't know. For some people, it's like ding ding, oh yay, we can do it online. But for other people, it's probably like, I don't know about that. I only use the computer every day. I'm just kind of, people are kind of skittish. And I'm thinking, about some of our seniors, and just people that are just not tied to a computer and the web. So I was thinking about that on the way over here. So I don't know if.
So that will be an option.
Yeah, it's an
Oh,
option.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And telephone.
Oh,
You can call in.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Particularly if there's a language like Portuguese or something that we don't have or hasn't been translated. Well, I think that might be one of the languages actually that you can request, but you can actually do it over the phone some kind of way. But again, that's
Hasn't the phone been in place? Has the phone been in place a long time, hasn't it? Like paper? I'm not
always done
sure
it by
how
paper,
long,
but I
the
just
phone,
know
the phone's
that
not a new option, is it, Rene?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
But I know that you can, but there are over 50, 60 languages that,
Wow.
yeah. Well, I mean, I was out in California a couple of summers ago for a conference, and they told me that, I think it's in Los Angeles, is that when they do anything, here, we try to make sure that we, translate things in at least Spanish and then Karen in Burmese. But out there, they have to do like 128 languages, and they still haven't got them all covered.
Wow. We are a diverse nation. That's just another reminder. So, okay, so what we're saying is that there's many different ways to do it. A lot of people are gonna prefer the computer, and if they don't have it, they might still prefer to be able to go to one of the 13 sites, libraries and community centers and other places. But there's also phoning it in, your information, and there's also sending it by the regular old US Post Office.
Yeah.
And so there's many ways, and so the other thing we were talking about is to get past people's distrust. We were talking about that the churches may get involved, and also to get, I think what Rene was telling us earlier about, which I think is worth repeating, getting people from the various communities to get trained and go out into their own communities, and that people will trust hearing from people from their own community more, what the ins and outs and why they should trust it. I don't know if you want to add to any of that.
Yeah, so I agree with that. I agree with what Commissioner Price said. I know that, as an elected official, we're considered the trusted voices of the community. And I do think we've been carrying the message and sharing information on social media, There's certainly information on the county and the town of Carborough's websites, and I'm sure Chapel Hill as well, probably Hillsborough too, I would think. Links to various facts and data, about the census. I know that I have pushed it through my own church and through my sorority. The NAACP, of course, is involved, the Chapel Hill Carver NAACP. So I think just getting it to as many trusted voices and community organizations as possible will be helpful going forward as far as, people being counted. Sometimes I just think people, and I don't know if you touched upon this yet, Commissioner Price, I just think sometimes folks don't realize what is actually tied to that census data, which you probably
We talked about it earlier. It doesn't hurt to repeat that again.
$75 billion.
So you have all this federal funding tied to that. Your representation is tied to that. And it's a lot of money. You said $675 billion. Yeah, it's a lot of money. Like free lunch programs, that's tied to it. SNAP is tied to it. A lot of these federal government programs that folks depend on and that we hear about is tied to census data, right? So education piece, I think, is really important as to why it's important to be counted. Just take the time to do that. It's not going to take that long. Just take the time to do it, be counted, so you can be fairly represented and fairly funded.
And I think Rene even broke it down to each individual. It would come to about $1,800 to be brought to the community for those different programs for them. And so you have a family, if there's a mother and a father and 3 kids, that would bring in a lot of support for the different programs that the community offers in education and child nutrition and the lunches at school. And what about healthcare dollars too? Does the feds bring us healthcare dollars? I'm sure that anything they give us is by representation.
I feel like I read somewhere about Medicaid maybe tied to some of the
even though we don't have Medicaid expansion.
And that's why we're already losing our status. I read, and I wish I could remember the statistics, how much that this state is paying from their taxes for the other states that have Medicaid expansion. And so we're losing out on billions each year because we don't have it, and yet we're contributing to other states that do have it. So our citizens are being screwed. We'll just say that again, folks.
And jobs that would be created by the money.
Pardon?
The increased demand would create jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there'd be jobs
Absolutely.
be created by that. So this is important for the community. It's important. This we can go as citizens. We go and vote. Hopefully, not everybody goes and protests, but people hopefully sometimes show up at meetings or whatever as citizens. But even if you're working 2 jobs or even 1 job or a half a job, if you don't get to do that, this is yet another thing as a citizen or a non-citizen, as somebody who lives here, that you can do very easily to pull down money for your community and for these wonderful programs that help many people. And I just think that that's so critical to keep in mind.
Yeah, I can remember when I used to write grants for, when I was working for nonprofit organizations, writing grants. And a lot of every single one of them required census data. You had to know what the census tract was and all the data that was connected with that. So it's critical. It really is critical that we have these numbers.
So there's many things we may not be enumerating that many programs, we were touching on the food stamps. I think they call it SNAP now, I think.
Yes.
And the child nutrition, the school lunches, the after school kids. There's just so much Medicaid dollars. There's just so much with health, nutrition. and many other things that the representation
Even
is.
community development,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
housing and roads and all of that.
Oh,
Block
yeah.
grants, block grants. ties
You're
to
right,
that
actually,
program.
that's what I was referring to, when I used to write grants, to community development block grant program. And I had to fill out all that census information, you know, it's all tied,
And you said transportation and infrastructure dollars too.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's a lot tied to it. It's a
So
good
we
bit.
have 10 more minutes. Is there anything else that we want to say, or we could play some music, or maybe while you're here, maybe each of you, and we'll come back to the census, maybe you should tell us where people, what is the website if they want to go look up about the census? Is there a
Well,
website
that's
to go to?
census.gov, isn't it?
Yeah, for in general,
Just general.
census.gov,
Mhm.
and as I said
Just
earlier,
go to
the re-
uscensus.gov,
just census.gov.
census.gov.
And also locally, we've got, information online, if you go to Orange County. It does seem to switch back and forth, sometimes what pops up first is like the election or Department on Aging. But but we do have it online, and our, information officers have linked, or what do they call, public information officers? They've linked, our sites to one another, so that we all,
So what
Can
would
add-
you, what would
can
you do
promote.
locally? What would you go to? Just go to Carborough?
Town of Carver
Town
website.
of- Town of Carborough website, or
Orange County.
Orange County website,
Mhm.
and then there would be links to go over to
Right.
information
Mhm.
about the census. So while you're here, we'll go back to the census before closing time and say that again, but maybe do each of you wanna give a brief, little synopsis about what's happening, with Rene, with you with the county, Barbara, you with Carborough? Is there something
What is it happening?
that you're passionate about right now, is there any?
Everything.
It's
so-
voting is going on, we're in the middle of a voting
Right.
time.
So, so I did wanna just say congratulations to, Commissioner Price, cause she will win her seat back. She is running unopposed.
Congratulations,
And
we're glad.
we're happy about that.
So is
She's
that another 2 years?
4.
4,
Mhm.
well, you'll be with us, yes.
Yeah, and she's been participating in everything, like the forums and, everything that they've had for the election, so.
I know you've
but
been
we're
a
just-
real big part of the Remembrance Committee and
Orange
Oh, yeah.
County Remembrance Coalition.
Coalition, and, yeah, well, I'm delighted to hear that.
Well, one of the big things that actually we had a meeting last night, it was a joint meeting with the 2 school boards. And when you think about all the funding that's gotta go into that for the students, for the teachers, for the school buildings, and we've got millions of dollars worth of repairs for our schools. And again, that gets back to the census.
Do you have like a range, like if you could say like millions of dollars, did anybody give a figure last night
There
that
were
would help
several,
us?
there were several figures, and
Okay.
the town was, you're gonna get, some information about it
I'm
too.
excited about
Cause
it.
they wanna,
So,
the
so a
big
lot
thing
of-
now is pre-K.
To what?
Pre-K,
Pre-K.
pre-kindergarten. And that is not in that SAPFO formula right now. They're not counted in that. And so, the school boards are requesting that we now include that in that SAPFO, which is a planning tool. And so that will be presented to the commissioners and then to the 3 towns. And maybe to
That pre-K for everybody.
well, to be able to put it into that planning tool, because right now, we're not counting them when we're thinking about how many, what our capacity is in the school buildings. And if we change that, how does that play out?
And a lot of the buildings are aging and need a lot of work.
Yeah, some of them as old as I am. That's old.
These
No, a
school-
lot,
they- yeah,
a
these
lot of them were
schools-
built in the 50s.
These school buildings are old,
Yeah,
around here. Chapel Hill Carver as well, and certainly out in the county. I mean, they're older buildings that have been
yeah.
semi-renovated and
Patched up.
patched up, and
Well, the Carborough High School is a pretty new one, isn't it?
Carver High is pretty new. Of course, Chapel Hill is. I think they're still going through the renovations.
Oh,
In
they're
Chapel Hill
building
High.
that new one,
So, but there are other schools in the district that
Yeah.
need need a
A
good
lot
bit
of
of
them
work.
are old. And you know, just like a house, you don't keep them up, things start falling apart.
Yeah, you can't go but so long before you have to go ahead and dig in and
Yeah.
throw that money out and like do the real work.
And
so.
the heating and air conditioning systems and
leaking, leaking
Leaking
can be a
roofs.
problem because I think I read something about maybe some mold or something in some,
Oh, yeah,
schools
yeah.
and stuff.
Several
So
of
then
them,
it
yeah.
becomes a public health
Health issue.
issue. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
so
Yeah, and then again, speaking of schools and the students and all, we have Head Start
Mm-hmm.
and EC classes that are mandated, and
Mm-hmm.
we've got to consider that as well.
does Head Start use they use our school buildings?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
good. And I'm hoping that they do get, preschool for everybody. I mean,
Oh, we need it.
yeah,
We need a level the playing
absolutely,
field.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's just so many kids who would have no opportunity, and I just think it gets them all on a more level playing field to have that pre-K.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good, so the good things are happening, but it all takes money. And that's what goes back to our central theme tonight of the census. So if you want enough money to come from the federal portion of that, it needs to be counted. And I guess from the state too,
Yes, we
Yeah,
get
it
money from the
affects.
state.
Yeah.
yeah.
And a lot of money gets funneled through the state as well, so we've got to know who's here.
And in Carborough, any big issue, particularly in Carborough, besides elections are now the hot and heavy issue, I'm sure.
And so the hot and heavy issue now is parking still. As we move towards the 203 project.
The what?
The 203 project. The
What's that?
southern branch of the Orange County Library.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's,
that-
oh, that,
The 203 project. Yes.
okay, is that what it's called? Oh, that,
Yeah, that's what it's currently called.
okay.
So,
But you'll have your offices there too.
yeah, there'll be some town offices in there for parks and recreation.
So that is still moving along?
That's trying to
Move
it will move along, but of course, the big issue is parking. We're wiping
I've been
out.
hearing that for 2 years.
Yeah, we're wiping out 100 spaces, and we got to figure out how to not only bring those spaces back, but also have spaces for the library patrons, town staff, that may park there, and anybody else, because there's some other entities going into that project. So, and I understand exactly what you're saying. I'm ready to get to a conclusion with that. I know as recently as last night we were talking about paid parking technologies. I'm not sure how well that's going to go over because the community is very accustomed to free parking in Carborough. But we're just talking about it. We're actually employing a consultant to do some work for us on that, get some data.
Because that's been going on for what, at least 2 years, that the money was approved, and then they said, there's this problem with the parking. And
not only parking, we had to go through a redesign when the art center pulled out. So, when the art center decided they wanted to go, out on their own, that put us in another, situation where there was a redesign, and then we had to talk about it again, several times. So, hopefully it's forward.
well, you have good energy, and I'm counting on you to push that through.
Count on my one vote, why don't you?
We got 2 minutes left. We've been talking to Rene Price from the Orange County Commissioners and Barbara Foushee from the Carborough Council. And we're delighted that they came, and they're really trying to alert the community in many ways, and this is only one small way, about the importance of the census that's coming up. I think you said March 12th?
That's when the letters will start going
Kind of
out.
going out.
Yeah, mid-March.
And April 1st is the
The
big,
big day.
that's a big day, April Fool's Day, but let's not make it a foolish day. Let's not be foolish about money and representation. These are all critical issues, and I so appreciate both of you coming, and you've made me realize I'm gonna be sure to get my census filled out, because I'm one of those people who tosses all my mail in a pile, and I'll look at it all later when I can stand it,
Did we talk about the jobs that are tied to?
Let's
Okay,
mention
good.
that again, we have 1 minute.
So there are jobs tied to the census count.
And well-paying jobs, around
Well-paying
$20
jobs,
an
from
hour.
what I understand. And is it still census.gov where they can find that information out about jobs?
Yeah.
Census.gov, you know anybody who, are these full-time,
Temporary.
can they be part-time?
These are temporary.
They're temporary.
Temporary
temporary.
jobs.
They have different ones, so it depends, you know.
Some
Yeah.
of them pay more than
part-time.
others, depending on
Yeah.
what the job is.
Yeah.
What the job is and actually, and where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And where
based
you
on
are,
the-
so you know anybody who'd like to make some quick bucks, and it's pretty good money, have them go to census.gov and look it up.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you both,
Thank
Rene
you.
Price
Thank you
and
for having
Barbara
us.
Foushee.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.